Next up, we have the image segment where we talk about images of the day. This is one of the faith leaders arrested by Illinois State Police for protesting against throwing migrants in cages. It's a very profound image. His name is Michael Wolff, but not the bad Michael Wolff. That's Michael Wolff with two F's. This is Michael Wolff with two O's. Michael Wolff. And he's the cool Michael Wolff, not the terrible, disgusting one. And this is quite the image. I mean, really, it's quite the image. And he's looking right into your eye, just thinking, like, you cool with this? But I'm sure he was getting really violent with the goons, right? That must be why they have him on the ground. He must have been really aggressive. Obviously, this is in reference to he had just written an article the same day or the day before, I believe, about why clergy should risk assault to protest ICE. He says, for people wanting to experience God, we are more likely to meet the divine trying to shut down the Broadview, Illinois ICE facility than we ever were in church. He says, dressed in a clerical collar and posing no threat, I was shot in the leg with a pepper ball by Illinois State Police while protesting outside the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Broadview, Illinois on November 1st. That's 2 weeks earlier. It was the second time I was assaulted while protesting the facility about 35 minutes from the church I pastor. In the first incident, an ICE agent grabbed my neck and grabbed my chest and twisted as hard as he could. If you think they treat me badly when the whole world is watching, it pales in comparison to what happens inside that facility. Whether it's the denial of medication and spiritual care, the unsanitary and overcrowded conditions, or inadequate food, as has been reported in court, there can be no doubt it is torture, and simple, pure and simple. It's why I refuse to be silent, and I will continue showing up to the Broadview facility until it is closed. By the way, you can click on all of these. They are links to very specific articles with very specific claims. It is important for my neighbors who were abducted to know that we will not stop fighting for their release. I joined the protest on November 1st because ICE agents came into my community, Evanston, Illinois, on Halloween and kidnapped and tear-gassed my neighbors. Much fewer children were out trick-or-treating that night, and many Halloween events at schools were canceled. When I talked to members of my youth group who witnessed the events from their school classroom windows, they were terrified. This is only one story in the broader attempt to terrorize Chicagoland, where ICE leaders have been placed under increasing scrutiny by courts for their behavior. By my estimation, our country is somewhere in 1930s Germany. Fascism is growing in power, but we still have opportunities to resist. The protests in Broadview are not simply a protest movement. They are a fight for the very soul of the nation. As the Trump administration attempts to shift the Overton window, changing our perception of what is acceptable, it is imperative that religious leaders speak out against the mission of terror and cruelty. For me, at least, these protests are also an expression of my most deeply held religious beliefs. Throughout Scripture, we are instructed to care for the immigrants in our midst. Leviticus 19:33-34 even says, when a foreigner resides among you, do not mistreat them. The foreigner living among you must be treated as one of your own people, and you must love them as you love yourself, because you were foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. It's hard to get clearer than that. We're going to read this full letter. In addition, Matthew 25 clearly says that God is identified with the most vulnerable in society. Whatever we do to or withhold from them, we do to or withhold from Jesus. I take that very seriously because it is one of the clearest avenues we have to God in this moment. For people wanting to experience God, we are more likely to meet the divine trying to shut down the Broadview ICE facility than we ever were in church. I say that as someone who leads a church for a living. God does not live in our houses of worship, but instead chooses to dwell with those who are bearing the brunt of cruelty in this moment. This is a very wise man. Despite the Trump administration's mischaracterizations, the protests I have attended have felt much more like church than a violent insurrection. There is plenty of prayer, a lot of singing, and some sermons. Most of all, there is a real sense of community that pervades the atmosphere. We are all there to support our neighbors and one another. That community is so important as we strive to confront the powers of evil that are at work in this administration's cruelty. Alone, resistance is impossible, but together, there can even be a remarkable amount of joy. Being assaulted is not something anyone would seek out, but it is something we should expect when we take on what Paul calls the powers and principalities. I am far from the only clergy person to be assaulted while protesting at the facility. In a case that shocked the nation's conscience, the Reverend David Black was shot with a pepper ball in the head outside Broadview, and the Reverend Hannah Carden was violently arrested while praying in October. This is Hannah Carden, a reverend. It is part of a disturbing trend in which ICE agents and the Illinois State Police collude to strip us of our First Amendment rights. I hope this man is happy with himself. I hope this man is happy with himself. I hope this man is happy with himself. I hope that man is happy with himself. And I hope this man is happy with himself. All of you are identifiable, probably even this man. All of you, your family and friends and community members, know what you are a part of. Our country needs religious leaders of all different faiths to reach deep within their traditions and find the strength to resist tyranny. Each of our traditions has different resources that we can draw from, and they are all needed now. For clergy with privilege like me, now is the time to use it to protect our neighbors and fight for their freedom. I fear that if we wait, it will be too late. That is a message that I think we all need to really listen to. And it's very worthwhile to really understand what's going on. And this man is trying to help wake us up. I think 1930s Germany is a very fair characterization of where we're at. We were talking about how Stephen Miller is trying to put back into place 1924 U.S. immigration laws that were loved and copied by Adolf Hitler. And that is one of many similarities between now and the rise of Nazi Germany. But I want to thank this person for sharing this extremely well-written and well-communicated message, and for putting himself out there for the good of all kinds of people, of people in general. So this disgusting goon with zero moral capabilities, Greg Bovino, who is in court about throwing tear gas after a judge told him not to because he's a little baby boy and doesn't like when mommy tells him he can't do something. This is him arresting another reverend. It's not surprising. I don't find this surprising at all. Most religious people are extremely kind and loving people, just like most people are extremely loving and kind people when given the opportunity. And the opportunity is now. So look at this face, America. This is a podcast.